Empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? We're 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go. Welcome to the Morning Scoop. It is Wednesday, August 31st, the last day of August, and we are 3 days away from the massive Ohio State versus Notre Dame tilt. I have my good friend Nevadabuck on here to talk about how Notre Dame and Ohio State match up and what things defensively we could be attacking when it comes to our defense versus their offense. So we're going to get into that. But first, as always, thankful for you guys. Thank you so much. The subscriptions are coming in like crazy. I just appreciate you guys so much. Please like the video. That helps us dramatically. On top of that, comment, how would you attack Notre Dame's offense if you were Jim Knowles? Jim Knowles is very confident today at his press conference, says that the team is 100% ready. I think that some of that bravado is getting rubbed off on the guys. They seem like they're raring to go, and they're frankly tired of being told how bad the defense was last year. So they get a chance to make a statement on Saturday night, and I think it's going to happen. With that being said, I'm bringing my friend Nevada. Nevada, how are you?
Doing great. Like you said, 3 days before the Ohio State Notre Dame game, and we had a great nugget out there today by the helping technician. For those of you who don't know who the helping technician is an insider that kind of specializes in some of the X's and O's. Had a great insight into Notre Dame's game plan against Ohio State, and I thought he had some really, really interesting things to say, and excited to share it with the public.
Well, kind of walk us through that, Nevada. For those people that don't know, the helping technician has been around the program a long time. So the guy has a very, very sharp football mind. He had a really nice note on Joe Royer, why he kind of fell behind in camp with a sickness, and he's been around. He hears a lot of things. Talk a little bit about what he talked about in terms of Notre Dame and how we're planning to defend them potentially.
Well, I want to go. We'll start slow. He made about 4 or 5 really points that were kind of the keystones to Notre Dame's game plan going into the Ohio State game, and we can talk about that. But we can talk about the flip side about how Ohio State combats that. I think the first thing he talked about was really that Marcus Freeman plans on using all 4 downs as much as possible in the game plan, and that's one of my bugaboos, and I talk about that all the time about how teams always limit themselves by kind of limiting themselves to 3, and if there's 4th and short or 4th and whatever, that they're automatically sending the punt team out there. And I think Notre Dame's viewing this as a statement game. It's kind of the launch of a new era of Notre Dame football per se, and Marcus has made it clear to the offensive staff that he plans on using all 4 downs and being very aggressive in terms of their offensive approach. And I thought that was a really, really interesting insight, and presents some really unique challenges for the Ohio State defense in terms of combating that.
Yeah, I think, and for those of you that are tuned in on YouTube, this is the last game that Jim Knowles coached. Here you can see the Jack linebacker, number 9 is where Jack Sawyer would be. They're doing this in a running formation, a way to kind of disrupt the double teams. But I'm just playing this because this is the last game Jim Knowles played in. It was a Big 12 championship. So you guys can kind of get a look at the structure of the defense. Obviously, number 2, if you see him on the film, that's Tanner McAllister, who came over with Coach Knowles. So you see him kind of all over the place there. He slips and falls and gets in on the tackle. But I believe that Marcus knows that he can't stop Ryan Day's offense, so you might as well go for broke and essentially, not even try to play field position, because I think our offense will be too dangerous. I don't think they'll be able to cover our skill guys, especially Jackson Smith and Jigba. So what's the point of punting it when they can make all that yardage back up with one CJ Stroud throw? Continue, Nevada. What else did the helping technician have in his, we call it the blocking slide. That is his version of a nugget on our site. What else did he talk about in terms of the Notre Dame game?
Well, he talked at the second point, which I thought, again, was a really interesting point and really something to watch for as an Ohio State fan, is Notre Dame's utilization of motion, and how, when you're trying to attack a new defense or a defense that's just been kind of put in, and a defensive that's in transition, that the weak points are kind of on the fringes of the defense. And Notre Dame uses motion in the past. So when you see motion from Notre Dame be thinking pass, because they're going to be passing a huge percentage of the time. Whenever you see motion, they're trying to set that up to try to get a favorable matchup for them. And, one of the matchups that they really like, that Notre Dame really likes, is their tight end. And, that All-American tight end, Mayer, that they want to go to him and try to, use motion to try to get him isolated up against a linebacker or safety. They don't think that Ohio State can cover that, as well as they might. And so when you're watching the game, you see motion, be thinking to yourself, pass is probably coming, because a huge percentage of the time that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and I think when you're, it's a defense that is the first time together between a coordinator, players, adjusting on the fly to motions based on the coverage you're in is it's going to be critical, and the stadium is going to be really loud, so it's going to be hard to get your adjustments made. I'm sure the guys are going to be using hand signals and just pushing the coverage to where it needs to go based upon the types of motions we see. I expect to see Notre Dame, use multiple sets. I think they're going to be a lot in 11 personnel. 11 personnel means one running back, one tight end. 21 personnel is two tight ends, one running back. So I think we're going to see a lot of their favorite, which is just the one tight end, one running back, and then three receivers deployed. So that's kind of the en vogue pattern now for offensive football, is three receivers. So it's going to be interesting to see how we defend that, and see if they try to go hard. I interviewed Jim Tressel today, and he thinks that, just like I do, they're going to try to run the ball a lot. They're going to try to shorten the game. They're going to try to keep CJ on the bench and have as few possessions as possible. Nevada, what does the helping technician and what do you think Notre Dame's game plan is going to be coming into this game?
Well, I've been thinking that they're going to cross us up and try to pass us a little bit more. But I think when they do, what you'll be looking for is, in addition to those tight end, I'd be looking for screens. I'd be looking for those naked bootlegs. I'd be looking for that deception. I'd be looking for those double moves. They're going to try to use the OSU. They know that OSU is going to be cranked up, and they're going to try to use that natural aggression that Ohio State's going to come into this loud stadium and try to use it against Ohio State. And I think, that's what they're going to try to do, because they don't have just the athletes. They have the guys that can blow the top right off the Ohio State defensive secondary. But, with that deception, with those screens, with those double moves, that can kind of, isolate some guys and get some guys open. And as, to your point and to Coach Tressel's point, Notre Dame believes that they have a clear advantage on the offensive line. They're returning all their offensive linemen. I know they've got a guy that's hurt. I don't know if he's questionable. I don't know if he's probable. I don't know if he's out. But they feel like they've got an advantage on the offensive line, and they feel like they've got two good running backs that bring both different things to the game. So Notre Dame can kind of come out there, hit those screens, hit those naked bootlegs with those passes underneath to the tight end, control the clock, with that advantage up line. That's what the game plan is going to be, and it's going to be up to Knowles and the Ohio State defense to stay disciplined. It's going to be loud. And so Notre Dame, when you see in short yardage, you see third or fourth and short, expect Notre Dame to go to the line quickly, try to use that quick cadence against Ohio State to try to prevent the kind of the ultimate buildup that you see in those situations where the Ohio State crowd can get really loud and make it really difficult on an offense to play, to call plays. And again, I think these are the elements that you're going to see for Notre Dame. This is the basis of their game plan against Ohio State, and it does present some unique challenges, and I think the OSU defense is going to be up to the challenge.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see how our pass rush matches up versus their offensive line. They've got true sophomore at left tackle, Joe Alt, who's a 5-star all everything kid. Him and Jack Sawyer, they're the same age, so I'm sure they've probably seen each other before at camps. He is a tall kid, 6'8". The right tackle 6'7", so they got a couple of trees at tackle. But it's going to be interesting to see how our pass rush goes. And then, also how do you contain a quarterback who is a runner? Because, this kid he's got the ability to scramble, and there's nothing that can change the game faster than a scrambling quarterback who converts a third down that he probably shouldn't have converted. So I think that when you have a kid making his first start, you really have to get after him. You have to hit him early. You have to take him down early and let him know that it's not going to be easy. And you got to contain them. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do offensively with Ohio State. What do you think? Marcus Freeman runs an odd defense. It's interesting. I asked Jim Tressel, if you were studying to get ready to play Notre Dame, how much would you study Al Golden's defense from last year? how much would you study Marcus Freeman's defense from last year? And he said, well, you study both and kind of mix them. And, you just basically have to guess when they haven't played together. They haven't coached together. So you don't know how much is it going to be Al's, how much is going to be Marcus's. But what do you look for the offense to do versus this Notre Dame defense?
Well, let's talk first about what Notre Dame's going to try to do. What Notre Dame's going to try to do is they're going to try to make Ohio State string together 10, 11, 12 play drives without suffering a negative play, a penalty, a sack, a tackle for loss, whatever it might be. They want to prevent giving up the long ball. So I think they're going to play kind of a conservative defensive shell, force Stroud to stay patient, keep it underneath. For Ohio State, they just got to mix in the run and the pass. Don't be super predictable in terms of by formation, which is something that is great. An offensive coordinator as Ryan Day is, and he's great. We got a little bit predictable last year by formation and by down and distance, and I think he's got to break those tendencies because I think Ohio State can do it all as long as they just play within themselves. If the run's working, you can stick with it. There's no reason to say you can't go away from it. And I think that Ohio State can score from anywhere on the field. You just have to stay patient and know that that Notre Dame's going to be playing that shell and not allowing you to go over the top. So if you don't get impatient, don't try to go for those big plays. Take those 7, 8, 9-yard chain movers and move it down and systematically take the game away from Notre Dame. That's how I think it's going to play out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They're going to try to not let people get behind them, but I think our guys could potentially just run right past them. I think they will run right past them. So it'll be interesting to see how much Ryan takes a shot with a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba or Marvin Harrison Jr. or even like a Jaden Ballard, a guy who's a true field stretcher, maybe the fastest guy on the team. See if they take him deep a few times, because I know that when we've played Notre Dame in the past, and I don't think this time is any different, generally in their back end, they have not been able to match up with our Ohio State speed, whether it's been 2005, 2015, Terry Glenn in 1995. I mean, we've always been able to out-athlete them and kind of split the safeties and go deep. So it'll be interesting to see if Ryan attacks that or not. 17 and a half is the current line. Nevada, your thoughts on that? Is that obscenely high? Is that about right? It's climbing and they can't seem to really keep it from climbing because the money keeps flowing in on Ohio State. What is your thought on that line? Any trepidation, any worry? I know it's football. Anything can happen. Virginia Tech game, Oregon game, some of these home games they seem like, we have the talent advantage and we don't show up and play well. Your thoughts on that 17.5 number right now?
Well, it's a great unknown, and I keep kind of going back and forth on this because I can see the game playing out a number of different ways. The biggest unknown to me is the Ohio State defense, and will Knowles have been able? I mean, the defense was bad last year. I mean, let's just be honest. The defense was bad, and specifically bad against stopping the run. And so, if we think about what Notre Dame's core competency is going to be coming into this game, it's going to be running the football. So, if there was a bad matchup for us, it's that one. And if a team can run, they can shorten the game. They can keep your offense off the field. They can certainly stay within the point spread. So, that would be my concern. I think, like I said, I probably be inclined to be betting more of a total in this game. But gun to my head, I'm taking the Buckeyes and laying the points, but I'm not feeling really great about it because 17.5 points that's a tremendous amount of that's a Rutgers spread or a Maryland spread, not a Notre Dame spread. So it seems a little high to me, but it just goes to speak to the tremendous respect that the Ohio State team has from the bookmakers in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and even though Notre Dame lost their last game against Oklahoma State in the bowl game, and it's a totally different team with a new quarterback, they were up to a big lead. It was like something like 21-7 or 28-7, and then they blew it, and then they fought back, and it ended up being like 38-35 or some crazy score like that. And but I mean, Oklahoma State is never a pushover with Mike Gundy, and I think that Tommy Rees, there's a reason why he was retained because he's good, and it's just going to come down to can this quarterback pull a rabbit out of his hat? I mean, that's what's going to come down to, because in games like this, like I remember that Virginia Tech game that I was at in 2014, and their quarterback, who I don't know if he ever threw another touchdown pass the rest of his life, played the greatest game of his life, and he played like it was Brett Favre for the entire game. And that's the kind of effort that this kid's going to have to keep Notre Dame in this game and give them a chance to win the game late. Is they're going to need that incredible, miraculous effort out of a quarterback making his first career start. I don't know if he'll be able to do it. I think of all the things that I'm excited to see, I'm excited to see Paris Johnson, the left tackle, and I'm excited to see our two sophomore defensive ends and see how they've improved. To wrap this thing up, Nevada, what are you most looking forward to see this Saturday night from Ohio State?
The thing that I'm most excited to see, frankly, is just the crowd. And I could go to any player and talk about any player, but just the energy from the crowd. I always say to us Ohio State fans, there's really only two things you can do to really direct the impact for Ohio State. One is donate money to NIL. The second one would be make noise at the games. And the energy from the crowd is going to be something else. It's going to be fun to see. And I think when you get older, you experience the years like we did with the COVID year where we didn't have fans in the stands, that you just it's the little things that you appreciate more. And I think the atmosphere, everybody that's going to be part of that is going to know they're a part of something really, really special. And I just want everybody to kind of savor the moment, the opportunity to commune together and celebrate Ohio State football. It's going to be a great evening, a perfect evening from a temperature standpoint, and just a great celebration of college football. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a magnificent night. So with that being said, I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Nevada, as always, we appreciate you guys. If you enjoy this conversation, if you enjoy these comments, if you enjoy liking this content, join BuckeyeScoop.com. We do this all day, every day. Nobody works harder than our staff. Nobody has more inside information than our staff. And we really enjoy interacting with our community. We have the best community in the Ohio State sphere. Some fantastic people, some mega people in the Ohio State network that are on this board. And we'd love to have you join the fun. Give it a try. You might love it. So with that being said, comment. What are you looking forward to from Ohio State on Saturday night? What do you want to see out of the Buckeyes? Is it the run defense? Is it the short yardage running game? Is it the new offensive line, new left tackle? Comment that in the comments. As always, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. You guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.